What are the first steps that someone who's been diagnosed with mesothelioma should take if they're considering filing a lawsuit against their former employer or the manufacturer of asbestos containing products that they may have been exposed to?
Sure, John. I think, obviously trying to find a lawyer is the first step. And there are a lot of options out there. And I strongly encourage people to conduct research. The internet's a wonderful thing, because it can certainly give you a lot of options, but it's also important to be able to assess those options. And one of the most critical criteria, I think, is where the lawyer is located relative to where you are and where you think your case would be. So, for example, if you're in Louisville, Kentucky, which is where I'm sitting right now, you should strongly consider, contacting an attorney from that particular area, because that person's likely to know the lay of the land, know the judges, know Kentucky law, know how jury instructions work, and all those sort of things. But that having been said, there's a lot of options out there, and conducting research is critically important. So certainly, getting comfortable with the lawyer that you're going to hire is by far probably the most important thing that you can do. You want to feel good about the person that you've retained.
So once you're past that sort of initial discovery phase and you've sort of figured out like where the likely exposure to asbestos was, how else does a lawyer typically help guide a client through the legal system?
I mean, pretty much we are the client's sole friend. We're the client's ambassador, if you will. Typically speaking, the clients don't talk to the judge. They don't talk to the other attorneys except in a deposition setting. We're the conduit for all of the information that's going to be provided to the defendants, and we are the gatherer of the evidence. And when I get hired in a case, there's kind of two different paths that we can follow. Either it's an exposure, whether it's a product or a location that I'm very familiar with, and I already have a treasure chest of information, and we can hit the ground running. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes, I have to beat the pavement and try to gather evidence before we can even get to the point where we file a lawsuit. And our goal is to always move quickly. Um, you know, for a lot of different reasons. The biggest being that unfortunately our clients won't live very, probably very long, and we want to try to get them their trial and their day in court as quickly as we possibly can. The other reason is the system's slow. The quicker we can get a case filed, regardless of the situation, the quicker we'll get it to trial.
How long does a mesothelioma lawsuit process typically take? What should clients expect in terms of timelines and potential outcomes?
Unfortunately, John, in today's day and age, a couple of years is kind of the minimum period of time. We try like heck to get cases to trial as quickly as possible. There are certain limitations that we have no control over. I mean, the court, we are still trying to catch up from COVID. There's still a huge backlog of criminal cases and civil cases, so that right there is can slow the process down. Lots of times when I file a case, there are numerous defendants, anywhere from 5 to 45. And when you have that many defendants, you have a lot of lawyers, you have a lot of schedules. So from filing date to trial, I would say you can count on 2 years. It can take longer if there are appeals, continuances, things like that. But if I were giving folks an average, I would say about 2 years. And it seems like a long time, and 2 years is a long time. I mean, it's a long time for anything, but it goes by fast. There's a lot of work to be done, and we get it done during that period of time. And the big fight we have is the defendants not wanting to do things so that they can try to delay the case.
Can you walk us through the various stages of a mesothelioma lawsuit, from filing that initial complaint to reaching a settlement or perhaps going to trial?
Typically speaking, we file the complaint. The complaint is just basically a legal document that gives the defendants an idea of what the case is against them. It's we have what we call in Kentucky notice pleadings, so we don't have to put a lot of information into a complaint. The defendants get 20 days after they're served with a complaint to file an answer. And from that point, there's about 6 months where the primary activities are answering and propounding written questions to the other side. So they'll send questions to us, we'll send questions to them. And the purpose of those questions is to kind of get a little bit more information than what we had before the case was filed. And obviously the defendants didn't know the case was coming. So it's for them to get more information about what the case is about. Also, during that 6-month period of time, I want to be able to take the plaintiff, my client's deposition. I want to put them on videotape and present the testimony as if they were there in court. The goal is they will be there in court when the case gets tried. Unfortunately, the harsh reality is several of our clients may not make it to trial, and we want to be able to preserve their testimony and make sure that in some way they're able to look the jury in the eye and tell the jury what happened to them. And then, at some point, and I'm obviously going on general averages. There's no hard and fast rule that it's 6 months or 9 months. But at some point in that 6 to 9 month range, I want to start taking depositions of the defendants. Sometimes it's a defendant that I've deposed before. And so I really want to kind of refine and hone in on, something that hasn't been covered before, or make sure that evidence is crystal clear as to what their responsibility is for causing our client's disease. Sometimes it's defendants that we're not as familiar with, and we're in more of a discovery phase where we're trying to gather information and also get some admissions as to what products they made, the asbestos content, and those sort of things.
What are some of the biggest challenges that clients might face during the mesothelioma lawsuit process, how can they prepare themselves for that?
Well, I personally think the biggest obstacle that I think is unique to everybody except for lawyers is the timing. We just talked a moment ago that it takes a couple of years to get from diagnosis or from filing to trial. That's foreign to a lot of folks. Why does it take so long? Too many people have watched attorney shows on TV where the crime happens on Monday and the trial happens the next week. And so it's difficult for people to deal with the time factor of it. And of course, as I've mentioned, mesothelioma patients have other problems. They want to be able to live to be at their trial. And so that's emotionally can be difficult on people. This is what I tell everybody from that standpoint. You have to, again, focus on you. The legal process is a wonderful thing in the United States. The jury system and the Seventh Amendment are the foundation of what I think a civilized society should be.